Hello, BookTube. Well, it's Wednesday, and that would ordinarily mean Epic Comic Book Wednesday, where Michael K. Vaughan and I talk about some comic book subject on each of our channels. But he's not making an Epic Comic Book Wednesday video today, because the only opportunity he had to film a video was he's a very, very busy guy, and he only had the opportunity to film his video last night. And there was a problem at Stately Vaughan Manor. He gave Roger Hotep the job of handing out candy to Halloween trick-or-treaters. And rather foolishly went and did other things. He had delegated the task. I think he went to look over all of those thousands and thousands of antique science fiction paperbacks that he has in plastic tubs. And when he came back a few hours later, all of the Halloween candy was gone. And all the trick-or-treaters were gone as well. I don't know when he's going to stop delegating tasks to Roger Hotep, but chaos ensued, so he is not making a comic video today, so we're not going to share a subject. So I thought, rather than just not talk about comics at all, which would disappoint all three of you who watch these videos, I would do another random dive through one of my long boxes. You comic book fans will know what I'm talking about. These are long, rectangular boxes of white boxes that are perfectly proportioned to fit stand-up single-issue comics, just hundreds and hundreds of them. I used to have a wall of these things. I know some comic book fans who have a whole room devoted to their long boxes, all carefully labeled so that it was a Dewey Decimal System of geeks, so that they know where everything is. But it doesn't matter that they know where everything is, because they never actually look at these things. They never actually they would never dream of opening one of the plastic bags, pulling out the issue and reading it with their oily Doritos fingers. They would never dream of doing that. So those boxes just sit there. I used to have a lot of those, and I used to have piles and just ordinary cardboard boxes of single-issue comics forever and ever. And over time, gradually, they have worn out, fallen apart, gone away. I still have long boxes. Full of comics going back 60, 70 years, something like that. So, and in no particular order. So I grab a handful of comics, and it could be something from last year, or something from 1961, or something like that. It doesn't. There's no order to them at all. I sort of don't like them. They feel like white elephants. They feel like I can't bring myself to just get rid of them. But there always has to be a place for them. There has to be somewhere where they can go. But I opened one of them and just pulled out a fistful of comics. I thought we'd go through them and see what we get just randomly. The first one is The Mighty Thor, number 239 from the 1970s? The aforementioned 1970s? Yeah, 1975. This is a lavish Gil Kane cover there. Odin in exile, Ulick and Bay. Don Blake and Jane Foster, together again. Now, Starquake. This is a silly cover. It's a Gil Kane cover, but it's a rare, bad Gil Kane cover. Not only all the ridiculous melodrama of it, but also even the artwork, which is rare for Gil Kane. That is not what a human body looks like. That is not even what an Asgardian body looks like. Fortunately, on the inside, you get some beautiful Thor artwork. The pencils here are by John Buscema, and the inks are by Joe Sinnott, who's one of his best inkers. Takes his already gorgeous pencils and just does, in fact, a lot of the opposite of what Buscema does when he inks his own pencils. And yet it works, I think, beautifully. And it's not called Starquake, Gil. It's called Timequake. Although even there, you don't get the point of that until the very last part of the issue. This takes place in a storyline in which the trolls, Ulick and the king of the trolls, Geirrodr, have blackmailed Thor. So they're making him do their bidding, and then as this issue begins, that blackmail is done with. And Thor now realizes that he doesn't have to put up with the trolls anymore. He fights Ulick, but it's not a contest at all. It's over pretty quick. And he also fights the trolls. Ulick has usurped Geirrodr's reign and has him bound off to one side. But Thor makes short work of these crowds of trolls. And Gerador is urging them, saying, my mystic spear. If you use my mystic spear, you idiots, you'll have a chance of beating him. Thor realizes, oh yeah, the mystic spear. So he throws it into an underground river that causes it to blow up, I guess, with napalm, because it starts to set rocks on fire and whatnot. And the trolls disperse. Gerador, of course, is helpless. So he pleads with Thor to come back and save him from burning alive. And Thor and Jane Foster take off, and we're told the Thunder God and his lady Fair hear not. But is that true? Is that true? Or did Thor actually hear it and just leave his foe to die? You don't know. You don't have any idea. This is also a time period where Odin, Thor's crazy father, has taken on a mortal identity and seems to forget that he's Odin. He seems not to know that he's Odin. He takes on the name of Orin, and he wears bib overalls, and he falls in love with a peace worker, a peacenik in California. And he's still got Asgardian strength. He swats station wagons. You'll have to Google what a station wagon is, but he swats station wagons moving at full speed away from him like gnats. I shouldn't mention gnats. They're all over the place. They might swarm in a fence. It's well done, but it's weird. Why would Odin do this? And how would the Asgardians not know? How would they not have some sort of ankle bracelet on their king, their god, to know where he is at all times? But he's involved with all of these people when we get the meaning of Timequake, because right in the middle of their orchards, it comes a pyramid. A pyramid erupts out of the ground. And what that's going to be in Thor 240 is Egyptian gods. The Egyptian gods are going to kidnap poor brainwash Odin and brainwash him again. It's a terrific storyline. It takes place right before a 4-part storyline in Thor that I really loved, but I still was glad to have it. What have we got next here? Oh, okay. All right. This is kind of strange. This is from the 80s. Is that right? The 1980s. Oh no, 1994. How could I have thought it was anything but the 90s? This is Superman, the Man of Steel, and it came with this particular issue was a gimmick. It came with a blank cover that just shows the Daily Planet in Metropolis, but it also came with a little page of stickers of all the characters and all kinds of poses and all kinds of sound effects, so that you could make your own cover. You were supposed to take the stickers and make your own cover. I wish that I still had that cellophane insert with the stickers. I, of course, made my own cover. See, this is all that you got. All the rest of this is me. I put Jimmy Olsen down there and Lois Lane. I put Superman punching Lobo, and I put the sound effects there. I stuck those onto the cover myself. I could have put anything anywhere here. I wish that I'd kept the insert, and I'm sure that the issue with the insert is collectible. But this is, as you can tell from my own cover, this is Superman versus Lobo, the main man, the intergalactic bounty hunter. It's an issue called Resurrection. No comic book issue should ever be called that. The writer is Louise Simonson, and the writer is John Bogdanovich. John Bogdanov, I think he's calling himself here. And you get his larger-than-life Superman. His larger-than-life characters just in general. He was a weird signature Superman artist from the time period when Superman had a mullet. So you get this hyper-dramatic stuff. And Superman, of course, wants to make sure that Lobo behaves himself. He also wants them to get away from Metropolis so they don't do any more damage. And punches him into orbit. And that is a surprise to Superman, because this issue in the 1990s was part of an ongoing plotline at the time that was increasing Superman's powers. And the reason they needed to be increased was because of John Byrne, who had been given corporate permission to reinvent the character. And the first thing he did was cut Superman's powers by 1/100th. So just cut them to the point where he's Luke Cage in a cape. Of course that's never going to stand. Of course it's not. But John Byrne was allowed to do it. He thought that would make the character more interesting. Yeah, thanks. The character had been around and selling well for 60 years. I'm pretty sure that makes for an interesting character. You don't need to save a character like that. You just need to thank your lucky stars that you've been given permission to draw or write Superman. But Superman punches him and he is amazed at how powerful the punch is, and he knocks him into orbit, and Superman wants to follow him there. But this Superman, John Byrne's Superman, well, he'd freeze to death in open space. And also, I mean, he can only hold his breath for about 30 minutes. Then what's he going to do? Whereas Superman, the real Superman, can fly all over the universe. He doesn't need to worry about such things at all. That's Luke Cage you're thinking of, in a cape. But as he is flying through space, he realizes suddenly that he doesn't appear to need to breathe. Notice the big contours here. Bogdanovich is really good at this. I don't know if he's still alive. He certainly doesn't get comic book work anymore that I know of. But he was a signature Superman artist. You really do know when you're in one of his issues, not just for his design of the character, but for the way he does action. And that just continues for the rest. I just noticed that the back is a whole thing. I could easily put other things here as well. Lobo's bike was one of the stickers. I could have put it there as well. But Superman realizes, basically, in the climax of this issue, he realizes that he is the old Superman, that he has unlimited physical power, which is the whole point of the character for 35 years before this issue. The whole point of the character was unlimited physical power, which means, as a writer, you need to come up with other things. Having someone beat him to a pulp, if that's your idea of writing, well, maybe you're not ready for the big leagues. See, this is what happens when I pull comics out of a long box. I talk forever about just a handful of comics. I clearly pulled more comics here than I could possibly look at. Well, we can go through some really quick. Like, for instance, this one is Roy Thomas and John Buscema. This is Thor Annual number 8, which retells the story of the Aeneid, Thunder over Troy. This tells the story of Virgil's Aeneid, where Thor is fighting against Greek forces. There's Ares, the god of war, with his mohawk. The main notable thing about this issue is the confrontation at the end, not between Thor and Hercules, but between Thor and Zeus. Two thunder gods fighting each other. And it should be no contest. Zeus is much more powerful than Thor. Much more powerful. You see, he should be physically more powerful as well. But he seems briefly able to handle Thor's hammer. It's the one and only time, I believe, that Thor and Zeus have ever fought. I think they might have fought for one panel in an Avengers storyline, also with Buscema artwork, where the Avengers go to Olympus. But they did a comic retelling of the Aeneid. Kind of interesting. Then we have Ambush Bug. I was very sad to see the other day that Keith Giffen died. That he was the writer and artist on a whole bunch of things. He was a seminal figure in my beloved Legion of Superheroes. This is his book, Ambush Bug. He made a character called Ambush Bug, who started out fairly absurd and just got more absurd these issues. This is a 4-issue miniseries. This is where he fights Qantas, the koala that walks like a man. And the funny thing about Ambush Bug was that he was Deadpool. He was breaking the fourth wall. He knew that he was in a comic book and knew you were reading the comic book. He could make fun of it, and there were a whole bunch of other things too that Giffen just poured into these issues. So when Qantas, the koala who walks like a man, appears, all he ever says is "knick-knack." And everyone thinks he's cute. Oh, cute, even though he's gigantic. When he appears, we get one of those side characters, Continuity Cop, who has the DC logo as her costume. She flies at Qantas, not so much to stop him as to ask him a barrage of continuity questions. Where are you from Earth 1? If you are from Earth 1, have you ever been to Earth 2 or fought any heroes who themselves from Earth 2? Do you know Pete Ross? If so, I need names and addresses of all characters who know your secret identity. Do you have an origin? A secret identity? And we periodically get breaks to sportscasters quietly talk. See, the dots around the word balloons mean they're whispering. Sportscasters quietly talking about Qantas, the koala who walks like a man, playing golf. No particular reason. Eventually, Ambushbug with panels like this. Eventually, Ambushbug decides to distract Qantas by dressing as a comely female koala, long enough to inject him with a drug that will revert him back to his human form. uh, and he does, and the whole story seems to be over. But every issue of this miniseries ended with Keith Giffen blatantly trying to goose sales. The characters repeatedly talk about how the sales aren't doing well for this miniseries, so we need to add something that'll make the fanboys buy every issue. And Giffen decided that he knew what that was, and it was the guest appearance of a certain character, but the character's not part of the story, so he just has to work him in however. So Ambushbug is at the fast food store, and he's making his order, and he's thinking about the case of Qantas, the koala who walks like a man. When he gets to the front of the line, and says, "No, not you!" And it's Darkseid. You want fries with that? He's got the little hat on. Darkseid appears at the conclusion of every issue, that just to help the sales. Okay, then we have the Classics Illustrated. This is Marvel Comics. This is their Classics Illustrated of the Iliad. These were, I believe these were bought from Europe. So, I don't even know. Okay, Elliot Magan did the script, and Young Montano did the artwork, which is dreadful. And this is just, there's no Thor in this one. This is just the story of the Iliad, that's all. Okay, then we have another issue of Thor. This is 411, when it goes up from 25 cents, and the last one we saw to $1. And this is, at least at the beginning, at least on paper, this is a matchup that you comic book fans would like to see. This is the X-Men villain, the Juggernaut, who is unstoppable, versus Thor, who is unbeatable. So what do? What happens in a situation like that? This issue has Ron Friend's artwork, and it's terrific. It's not always just him doing Kirby. It's often panels and layouts that show his own gift for lots and lots of predator action there. And Thor does fight the Juggernaut, but in this particular storyline, see there, he works up his hammer to throw it. That's going to be unstoppable. But it does stop. It gets close to Juggernaut and then stops. But in the course of this particular run, Thor has been having mysterious fainting spells, mysterious weak spells, and he has one of those spells while he's fighting Juggernaut. So it's not the two of them fighting at the top of their strength. And Thor appears to be defeated and needs to be saved by a new supergroup, and it's their very first appearance. The New Warriors appear for the first time on the final page of this issue to face off against Juggernaut. They don't have a single bit of a chance, but nevertheless, they do their best. Then we've got a Captain America spin-off series. Captain America was doing really well back in the, do I know when this is? Late 90s. And it got a spin-off series called Sentinel of Liberty. The writing is by Mark Waid. The artwork is by Ron Garney, who's one of the best Captain America artists of them all. No offense to Jack Kirby. And this is the first issue of Captain America Sentinel of Liberty, which has a fold-out cover there. So you get Captain America and Sharon Carter and all the Captain America standards. You've got Baron Zemo and the Nazis and Prince Namor the Submariner and the Human Torch and, of course, the Red Skull. And this is Captain America thinking back on an adventure that he had with Sharon Carter where she learns his first name and where it is she reiterates that he is a valued agent for the American government or for the American superhero scene, specifically because he will not kill. And it's terrific. Ron Garney is just so good at this character. But actually, I have to say, Mark Waid is as well. There's a point here that a less confident writer would have ruined, where the bad guys are teaming up on Agent 13, and they're about to throw her into a dissolution pit. They're about to just dissolve her. And one of them says, "Who's going to save you now?" And this is the next panel. Just that. No words. Less confident writer would have filled that with words. Or worse, would have given us some kind of Schwarzenegger one-liner. My God, how awful would that be? Okay, then we go back to the 1960s. This is Marvel Superheroes, which was a big omnibus thing that Marvel did for, I think, 10 issues. This is their issue on Medusa, Madame Medusa, which I didn't really give a rip about Madame Medusa, but this has original artwork by Gene Colan all throughout, and it's an original story, but it's amazing. Just watching what Colan can do is just amazing. None of this, there's no computer background stuff here. This is all just him doing this. And the villains are the Frightful Four. Used to be the Frightful Four when Medusa was a member of the team, and they've never quite got over that. So they summon her and they also fight her. Look at that, just fantastic. And it's just a solo adventure of hers. That I don't know has been collected anywhere else. I'm pretty sure that Marvel has never done one of those big $125 hardcover omnibus volumes that Michael K. Vaughan loves so much. Have they done one of those volumes for the Inhumans? I don't think they have. The Inhumans have had a couple of really interesting runs on comics, one of which had very early Marvel artwork by George Perez. This would be a perfect addition to such a volume to fill it out. But this is filled out. This particular issue from the 60s is filled out by reprints. You get Bill Everett Submariner. You get the Black Knight with this lovely period artwork there, and also in a neat treat here, you get an adventure of Captain America drawn by John Romita. John Romita Sr., the guy who would later go on to draw Spider-Man and become a signature Spider-Man artist. Here he's drawing Captain America. Impossible to miss his artwork style. Okay, we have to get through this. This is being very long here. Okay, this is from the 2000s, I think. No, still the 90s. This is a miniseries called Arsenal, which stars the former teen sidekick of Green Arrow, who used to be called Speedy, and famously in a famous issue of Green Arrow and Green Lantern, Speedy is revealed to be a junkie, hence the syringe on the cover of this book, real subtle there. And here we meet him as an older and wiser character, and he's hip and he's hep, and he's eventually going to fight Vandal Savage, which is kind of an odd pair up there. I really like this miniseries, even though it's not the kind of thing that I really should like. It's written by Devin Grayson, and the artwork is by Rick Mays, and Rick Mays' artwork is very manga-esque. It's got all of this sort of stuff here going on that seems much more akin to manga than it does to normal comic book artwork. I didn't know what to make of it when I got the first issue and thought, well, that was certainly interesting. So I don't know what to think about this. I'm going to get them all. I'm glad I did. I don't know if these have ever been reprinted. I don't know if this let me show you the covers of all of these. That's issue number 1. Then we've got issue number 2 with Vandal Savage, the immortal supervillain. And you can tell by the green highlighting there that you're going to get some memories of his days as Speedy. Then issue number 3, or no, this is issue number 2, where he teams up with Connor Queen, who was... At this point, he was the star of Green Arrow comic book. Green Arrow was supposedly dead, and Connor was a son of his, who has since, much like Roy Harper, much like Arsenal or Speedy himself, has since been entirely co-opted by identity politics that have poisoned comic books. So God only knows what the current state of things is with Connor Green Arrow. I think the last time I checked, he was ace. He was asexual, even though no living organism has ever been that. That's not the science fiction you're supposed to be paying attention to. You're supposed to be paying attention to the boxing glove arrows. And then issue number 4, where our character is holding a crossbow, but also federal ID. And I haven't read this storyline in quite some time. I wonder how it would hold up. We're almost done here, don't worry. We have, this is from the 1980s, I believe. Yeah, the 1980s, 1984. This Jan Strand did the writing, and the artwork is by Denish Fujitaki. And this is, of course, this is going to appeal to me. This is Dalgota, Dogs in Space, from old Fantagraphics comics, where he is an alien who just happens to look like a dog. That was fine by me. I didn't care. And also, this artwork style takes a little bit of getting used to. But once I was used to it, I absolutely loved it. Somewhere, here is, look at that. Oh my, so good. Somewhere here is the rest of the run of Dalgota. I think it was a year that I was reading Dalgota and loving it, pushing it on people that I knew, but all of them were standard, normal comic book fans, so they had no interest in it at all. They were amazed that I did. Okay, and then we'll finish up with another John Romita. This is John Romita Jr. This is the son of John Romita Sr., and this is an issue of Spider-Man. This is number 504. And as you can tell from the cover, even if you don't know anything about comics, you can tell from the cover that that's Loki, Thor's half-brother, who's famous in the movies. And here, Loki and Spider-Man are teaming up. They are not, the cover is a little bit of a dodge. They're not actually enemies in this issue. It takes a very weird, laid-back look at how some of these characters must act towards each other when there is no world-beating scheme on the books. Here, Loki just wants to talk with Spider-Man. Just wants his help with a mortal problem. And I liked it. You wouldn't think I would, but I kind of did. I really liked the laid-back attitude here. That, of course, Spidey, if Loki is not making trouble for him, then Spidey's not going to say, you must go to jail or whatever. Also, the element all throughout this issue is that one of the reasons why Spider-Man might act that way is because Loki is not normal. He's a god. He's not a normal supervillain. You could no more treat him that way than you could treat Thor as a normal superhero. So they don't do that. This is a 2-issue storyline, and it's wonderfully refreshing for that. And it has one of my favorite little moments in a Spider-Man comic. The Spider-Man comics at this particular run, this John Romita Jr. run, had some fantastic moments. There were good issues, but there were some fantastic moments, and this has one of them. There's one in another issue where Spider-Man he's lost in thought, and he's walking down the wall of a New York apartment building. And he's lost in thought. He's not paying attention. He's just pacing the walls, but literally. And he encounters a guy who wonders what he's doing out there, you weirdo. Why are you walking on the walls of my apartment building? And, we're having movie night, and Spider-Man just joins them for popcorn. But here we have Spider-Man and Loki just sort of sitting. They're hanging out, having hot dogs. And Loki is naturally skeptical of what is in the hot dog. He's naturally skeptical of that. And this is the bit that I love, where he says to him, "How can you eat things when you do not even know what they are?" And Spider-Man says, "Hey, it's the American way, pal. If you don't like it, go back to Philly where you came from." But the bit that I love is this top panel, where Loki says, "What are the green bits?" And Spider-Man says, "No one knows." And then they face the supervillain of the issue, who is not just anybody. She's Loki's daughter. And Loki he says a line here that when I read this back in, the 1980s or whatever, I immediately thought of Thor. He says, Spider-Man wants to know who she is, and Loki says, "My daughter." And Spider-Man says, "You have a daughter?" And Loki says, "Hundreds across the centuries. I'm a Norse god. It's what we do." So you automatically think of Thor. But this has tons and tons of terrific John Romita Jr. mystical combat. Just a terrific issue. But the thing I liked about it was the character stuff. That Loki and Spider-Man are not enemies. They're not exactly friends, but they're not enemies either. It's kind of a neat glimpse into this writer, Straczynski. Is that who this is? I have to credit the writer if I'm loving this so much. Yes, J. Michael Straczynski. It's a kind of a glimpse into how he views the Marvel Universe when it's not on the time clock. But anyway, oh my God, that's long enough. That is just a random foray through my long boxes, just a bunch of comic books. They'll all be just comic book fans. And we'll have to hope that things return to normal next week. So I'll see you then. Thank you, BookTube.